Meanwhile, a few blocks away, Christopher Dunn was at his mother's house, hanging out with his family and talking on the phone. His mother, Martha, and sister, Arnetta, will testify that he was there with them, talking on the phone while the family was watching one of their favorite TV programs. Now, they knew that Chris wasn't supposed to be there at that time. He was supposed to be in the halfway house. So when the police came later, they lied about his whereabouts. But he was there nevertheless, Judge, and corroborating evidence will establish that. Christopher Dunn was talking originally on the phone to Katherine Jackson sometime between 10 and 11 p.m., and after their conversation ended, his good friend Nicole Bailey called. She will testify, Judge, that she had just delivered a baby girl the night before and called to talk with her friend Christopher Dunn, and they talked for hours, which was typical for them. And they were on the phone until after midnight, when the nurse made her get off the phone in order to take her vitals at about 1 o'clock a.m. A little bit later that morning, Judge, at around 3 o'clock a.m., Damaris Stepp and Michael Davis gave statements to the police, just a few hours after seeing their friend shot and killed. Damaris Stepp first said he didn't see who the shooter was, but a few minutes later he changed course and said he saw Christopher Dunn. Michael Davis followed suit, naming Christopher Dunn as the shooter, but the boys could not agree on many of the details, as you will see, because they were making up their story as they went along. Based solely on this testimony, Judge, Christopher Dunn was tried for murder. At trial, their testimony was inconsistent, uncertain, and unsure. Damaris Stepp changed his story again, changing the shooter's location from one side of 5609 Labadie to the other side, and now claimed that he even saw Christopher Dunn with the gun before any shots were fired. Michael Davis, as you will see, was pressured to testify that day. There were numerous consistencies, of course, that you will hear about. You will also find that Damaris Stepp was facing felony charges and a potential 30-year sentence. But you will also hear from Curtis Stewart, who was in jail at the time with Damaris Stepp, and he heard Damaris Stepp admit that he never saw Christopher Dunn at the shooting. Damaris Stepp said he didn't care because Damaris Stepp was getting a deal. And indeed, the evidence will show that Damaris Stepp did get a deal in exchange for his testimony. The armed criminal action charge was dismissed. Damaris Stepp also testified that he believed that he would get probation for those charges, and ultimately he did get probation. Michael Davis did not want to testify and tried to back out, but the police showed him gruesome photos of his dead friend and put him on the phone with Rico Rogers' mother, who begged him to testify. So the youngster named Christopher Dunn. The evidence will show, Judge, that these boys never saw the shooter's face. They did not even look in that direction before the shots were fired, and after the shooting began, everything happened too fast. They were running for their lives, and they did not even look that way. All of the witnesses also have consistently agreed that it was very dark at the scene that night. These inconsistent misidentifications were the sole evidence.
St. Louis, Missouri, 1990. A 15-year-old boy named Rico Rogers was shot and killed. Police built their case on two witnesses, two children, ages 12 and 14, and on their word alone, an 18-year-old named Christopher Dunn was convicted of murder and sentenced to life without parole. He always said he was innocent. For 34 years, almost no one listened. This is not the story of a verdict. This is the story of what happens after one, when the system finally has to answer for it. Both child witnesses eventually recanted. They said police pressured them into testifying, that what they said on the stand wasn't true. But a recantation isn't a retrial. For decades, Christopher Dunn's case moved through appeal after appeal and went nowhere. Then in 2024, Missouri passed a new law. Prosecutors could ask a judge to review a wrongful conviction directly. St. Louis's own circuit attorney did exactly that. A judge would finally hear the case Christopher Dunn had been begging someone to hear for 34 years.
Very well reasoned. I thought the court's focus on the fact that the sole evidence presented against Mr. Dunn at the original trial was the testimony of the two key eyewitnesses who at that time were 12 and 14. I thought he did a very careful analysis as to why their recantations of that testimony was credible. And I also thought his reliance on the expert witness, which is testimony that wasn't available in any of the other proceedings, the expert witness of the eyewitness testimony expert, I thought his reliance on that in kind of pointing out how really the identifications in this case had every indicia of unreliability when you consider things like opportunity to observe, the alleged presence of sunglasses on the face of the shooter, the darkness of the night, the age of the witnesses. So I thought
Judge Jason Sennheiser held the hearing. He heard the recanted testimony. He reviewed the evidence, and he ruled clear and convincing evidence of actual innocence. Christopher Dunn's conviction was overturned. He was going home. He began signing his release paperwork. And that is the exact moment Missouri's Attorney General intervened. The state's Supreme Court issued an emergency order. Freedom, halted, mid-signature. After 34 years, Christopher Dunn was still not free.
Thank you, Mr. Gore. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Gore and his team, Judge Shaw and his amazing team, and the Midwest Innocence Project, and all the dedicated, heartfelt people who work there. We're just so grateful. This has been such a long fight for decades, and without them, we would not be here today. We are overjoyed, and at the same time, we're also afraid to really exhale until Chris actually takes his first free steps and feels the free ground against his feet. When that happens, I think all these feelings we've been holding on to for so long will finally erupt. But thank you for being here, everyone, and we are hopeful that the next time you hear about this case, it will be the news of Chris walking as a free man into the world, finally, after 34 years of wrongful conviction.
With that, I am happy to take any questions.
Days later, the Missouri Supreme Court ruled the Attorney General never had the authority to stop it. On July 30th, 2024, Christopher Dunn walked out of prison, free for the first time since he was 18 years old. But the fight wasn't over. For nearly 2 years, Missouri's Attorney General kept appealing, trying to overturn his exoneration and send him back. In May 2026, the Missouri Court of Appeals ruled unanimously. His exoneration stands. Christopher Dunn spent 34 years in prison for a murder 2 children invented, and in the end, the truth outlasted every person who tried to bury it. The moment justice lands,